The message came without warning on a Tuesday morning. Every screen on Earth went dark at the same moment. Every phone, every television, every computer display flickered and died for exactly 3 seconds. Then the face appeared. It was not a human face. The creature had skin like polished stone, gray and smooth. Its eyes were solid black like 2 holes cut into the universe itself. When it spoke, the voice carried no emotion, no warmth, nothing that could be called feeling. "People of Earth," the creature said, "I am High Commander of the Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our domain. You have 72 hours to surrender all military assets, dissolve your governments, and prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification." The screen went black again. Then normal programming returned as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. In Seoul, Admiral stood in the command center of Earth's United Defense Force. She was 34 years old, the youngest person to ever hold her rank. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes never blinked as she watched the message play again on the main screen. Around her, officers scrambled to their stations. Phones rang without stopping. Voices overlapped in a dozen languages as the world tried to understand what had just happened. "Play it again," said quietly. Her aide, a young lieutenant named, pressed a button. The alien face appeared once more, studied every detail. The way the creature's mouth moved, the slight tilt of its head, the absolute confidence in its voice. "It believes what it is saying," said. "It has no doubt that we will surrender." "Should we contact them?" asked. "Try to open negotiations?" Shook her head slowly. "You heard it, this is not a negotiation. They do not want to talk, they want us to kneel." The door to the command center opened. General Minyu walked in with heavy steps. He was an older man, his hair more gray than black now. He had served in 3 wars and had scars on his hands to prove it, but had never seen him look so tired. "The world leaders are in emergency session," Minyu said. "Half of them want to surrender immediately. The other half want to launch every nuclear weapon we have." "Neither option will work," replied. "If we surrender, we become slaves. If we attack with nuclear weapons, we show them exactly what we have, and what we have is not enough." Minyu moved to stand beside her. Together, they watched the frozen image of High Commander on the screen. "There is another option," Minyu said quietly, "one that only 12 people on Earth know about." Turned to look at him, the Obsidian Project. Minyu nodded. "It is time." For 20 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. Not openly, not where anyone could see, but deep beneath the surface of the moon, in caverns carved from ancient rock, something had been growing. The Obsidian Project began after the first alien signals were detected in 2089. Scientists could not decode the messages, but they understood one thing clearly. Humanity was not alone, and whatever was out there might not be friendly. So they built in secret. They mined asteroids and dragged them to the dark side of the moon. They developed technologies that no one announced, no one published, no one knew existed, and they waited. "How many ships?" asked. 312, Minyu answered. Each one built from asteroid cores, each one coated with materials that absorb all sensor signals. To any scanner in the galaxy, they appear as nothing, empty space, shadows. "The Obsidian Armada," whispered. "The Council wants you to lead it," Minyu said. "You are the only admiral who has trained on the new systems. You are the only one who knows the ships." Was quiet for a long moment. Outside the command center windows, she could see the city of Seoul stretching to the horizon. Millions of people going about their lives, not yet understanding that everything was about to change. 72 hours, she said. "That is not much time." "It is enough," Minyu replied, "if we move now." Made her decision. She turned to face the room full of officers and raised her voice so everyone could hear. "Listen carefully," she said. "In exactly 1 hour I want a secure channel open to the following locations: Luna Base 7, Mars Colony 12, the Titan Research Station, and the Belt Mining Federation. Use Protocol Black. No records, no traces." The officers stared at her. Protocol Black had never been used. Most of them did not even know it existed. "Admiral," one officer said carefully, "Protocol Black requires authorization from the World Council." Reached into her pocket and pulled out a small card. It was black metal, no markings, no writing. She held it up for everyone to see. "This is my authorization," she said. "The Council gave it to me 3 years ago for exactly this situation. Now move." The room exploded into action. Over the next several hours, worked without rest. She coordinated with commanders across the solar system, each one surprised to learn that the Obsidian project was real. Many of them had heard rumors, whispers of a secret fleet hidden somewhere in the darkness, but none of them had believed it was true. Now they had to believe, now they had to fight. On the moon, Captain received his orders with steady hands. He was 40 years old, a veteran of the Belt Wars, and he had spent the last 5 years training for a mission he thought would never come. He commanded the flagship of the Obsidian Armada, a massive vessel named the Silent Thunder. "All ships report ready," his second officer lieutenant told him. 312 vessels, fully armed, fully crewed. Looked at the main screen of his bridge. It showed the interior of the lunar cavern, a space so vast it could hold a small city. And filling that space, row after row after row, were the ships of the Obsidian Armada. They were beautiful in a terrible way. Each ship was angular, sharp, designed to cut through space like a blade. Their hulls were pure black, so dark they seemed to swallow the light around them. No running lights, no markings, nothing to show they existed. "When we launch," said quietly, "we will become ghosts. The enemy will not see us coming. They will not know we exist until we are among them." Nodded. "The crew is ready, Captain. They know what is at stake." "What is at stake?" repeated. "Everything, our homes, our families, our entire species. If we fail, there will be no second chance." "Then we will not fail," said simply. Back on Earth, the 72 hours continued to count down. World leaders argued and debated. Some wanted to fight, some wanted to surrender, some wanted to run, but ignored them all. She had her orders, she had her mission, and she had a plan. At hour 48, the fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system. Long-range sensors detected over 500 vessels, each one the size of a small mountain. They moved in perfect formation, unstoppable, inevitable. "They are not hiding," Minyu observed. "They want us to see them. They want us to be afraid." "Good," replied. "Let them think we are afraid. Let them believe we have no choice but to surrender." "You want to deceive them." "I want to buy time. Every hour they spend waiting is another hour for our fleet to prepare." She opened a channel to the fleet. The face of High Commander appeared on screen, those black eyes staring without expression. "High Commander," said, keeping her voice calm and measured, "I am Admiral of Earth's Defense Force. I wish to discuss the terms of your offer." Tilted his head slightly. "There are no terms to discuss. You will surrender or you will die." "We understand, but the people of Earth need time to accept this reality. The governments must organize the transition. We ask for an additional 72 hours to prepare." For a long moment, said nothing. Then something that might have been amusement crossed his stone face. "You seek to delay. You hope that more time will bring some miracle to save you. It will not. Nothing can save you, but very well, I will grant your request. You have 72 additional hours. Use them to say goodbye to your world." The channel closed. Minyu let out a breath he had been holding. That was a gamble, if he had refused. "He did not refuse," said, Because he does not fear us, he sees no threat. We are insects to him, worthy of nothing but contempt. That contempt may cost him everything, Minyu said. Smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of someone who knew exactly what was coming. Yes, she said, it will. On the moon received the news of the delay. He understood immediately what was doing. She was giving them time to check every system, time to run every simulation, time to make absolutely certain that when the Obsidian Armada launched, nothing would go wrong. He walked through the corridors of the Silent Thunder, speaking with his crew. Some were nervous, some were excited. All of them understood that they were about to make history. We trained for this, told them. Every drill, every exercise, every simulation, it all led to this moment. When we launch, we will show the universe what humanity can do when pushed against the wall. A young ensign raised his hand. Captain, do you think we can win? Looked at the young man for a long moment, then he nodded. I do not think we can win, he said. I know we will win, because we have something they do not understand. We have something they cannot calculate or predict. What is that, sir? We have each other, said, and we will never give up. The countdown continued. The fleet waited at the edge of the solar system, patient and confident. And in the darkness beneath the moon, 312 ships prepared to change the course of history. Humanity was about to answer. The lunar cavern had never been meant for visitors. For 20 years, it had existed in absolute secrecy. No satellites photographed it. No telescopes detected it. The entrance was hidden beneath 3 kilometers of rock and metal, accessible only through a single tunnel that appeared on no map. But now Admiral stood at its entrance, looking down at the greatest achievement of human engineering. The cavern stretched for nearly 50 kilometers in every direction. Its ceiling rose so high that clouds formed near the top, thin wisps of moisture that drifted in the artificial atmosphere. And filling this impossible space, arranged in perfect rows like soldiers waiting for orders, were the ships of the Obsidian Armada. 312 vessels, Captain said, standing beside her, each one capable of operations that our public fleet cannot even imagine. Walked forward slowly, her boots clicking against the metal floor. The ships towered above her, their hulls darker than the space between stars. She reached out and touched the nearest one, feeling the strange material beneath her fingertips. What is this coating? She asked. We call it void skin, answered. It took our scientists 15 years to develop. The material absorbs 99.9% of all electromagnetic radiation. Radar, LiDAR, thermal imaging, even visual light to some degree. To any sensor in existence, these ships appear as nothing. Empty space, whispered. Exactly. The enemy could fly within 100 meters of our fleet and see nothing but stars. They continued walking through the cavern, studied each ship they passed, noting the differences in size and design. Some were small and fast, built for quick strikes. Others were massive, bristling with weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Show me the flagship, said. Led her to the center of the formation. There, rising above all the others, was the Silent Thunder. The ship was enormous. Its hull stretched for nearly 2 kilometers, angular and sharp like a blade made from darkness itself. Massive engines jutted from its rear, currently dormant but capable of pushing the vessel to speeds that would make conventional ships look like they were standing still. She is beautiful, said. She is more than beautiful, replied. She is the most advanced warship ever built by human hands. Her weapons systems can target and destroy enemy vessels before they even know she exists. Her shields can withstand bombardment that would crack a planet. And her crew. He paused, pride evident in his voice. Her crew is the finest in human history. Every person on this ship volunteered knowing they might never return home. They are not just soldiers, they are believers. Nodded slowly, take me aboard. They entered through a side airlock, walking into corridors that hummed with quiet power. Crew members snapped to attention as passed, their faces showing respect and determination in equal measure. In the main engineering section, found Chief Engineer running final checks on the power systems. Was a small woman with sharp eyes and hands that never stopped moving. She had helped design half the technology on this ship, and she knew every wire, every circuit, every bolt. Admiral said, not looking up from her work. The reactors are running at optimal efficiency. We can launch within 6 hours of receiving the order. Tell me about the weapons, said. Finally looked up, a slight smile crossing her face. The weapons are my favorite part. She led to a display screen that showed the ship's armament systems. The images were complex, showing devices that had never seen before. Primary weapons are plasma lances, explained. Each one fires a concentrated beam of superheated matter at near light speed. One hit can cut through enemy armor like paper. We have 24 of these mounted along the main hull. Secondary weapons. Void torpedoes. They carry warheads that create localized gravity wells. When they detonate near an enemy ship, the sudden gravitational shift tears the vessel apart from the inside. We have over 200 of these in our magazines. Study the displays carefully, and the shields. Adaptive barrier technology. The shields learn from each attack, adjusting their frequency to better absorb the next hit. The more the enemy shoots at us, the stronger we become. Impressive, admitted, but they have over 500 ships. Even with our technology, the numbers are against us. Smile widened. That is where our true advantage comes in, Admiral, our invisibility. She brought up another display, showing a simulation of space combat. Ships appeared as red dots, moving in formation. Then, suddenly, black shapes emerged from nowhere, striking the enemy from all directions at once before vanishing again. We do not fight them ship to ship, said. We appear, we strike, we disappear. They cannot target what they cannot see. They cannot defend against what they do not know is coming. We will be ghosts in the darkness, and ghosts cannot be killed. Watch the simulation play out. The red dots diminished rapidly, destroyed by enemies they could not detect. Within minutes, the entire fleet was gone. Simulations are not reality, said carefully. The enemy may have technologies we do not understand. They may adapt faster than we expect. They may, agreed, but we have something they do not have. What is that? Desperation. They fight because they want to conquer. We fight because we have no choice. Our backs are against the wall. Our homes are at stake. That kind of motivation cannot be calculated or predicted. Considered these words. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people waiting to learn their fate. She thought about her family and soul, her mother who had called her crying after the message appeared. She thought about everything humanity had built over thousands of years of struggle and growth. All of it could end in the next few days, unless they won. Begin final preparations, ordered. I want every ship ready to launch within 4 hours. We will use the remaining time to coordinate with our allies. Allies asked, what allies do we have? The colonies answered. Mars, Titan, the belt miners. They have small fleets of their own, nothing compared to ours, but they can help. More importantly, they can provide distraction. She explained her plan as they walked back through the ship. The colonies would position their vessels at various points throughout the solar system, making it appear that humanity's defense was spread thin and disorganized. They would see these scattered forces and dismiss them as no threat. Meanwhile, the Obsidian Armada would remain hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. We need the enemy confident, said. We need them to believe they have already won. When they lower their guard, when they move their fleet into formation for the final assault on Earth, we will appear behind them. And then asked, and then we show them why humanity has survived every challenge it has ever faced. We show them that we do not bow, we do not break, we fight. Over the next several hours, the cavern became a storm of activity. Crews ran final checks on every system. Supplies were loaded onto ships. Pilots climbed into their cockpits and ran through their pre-flight sequences. Moved from ship to ship, speaking with commanders and crew members. She knew that many of these people might not survive the coming battle. She wanted them to know that their sacrifice would mean something. "I will not lie to you," she told one group of pilots. "This will be the hardest fight of your lives. Some of you will not come back. But if we succeed, if we drive these invaders from our system, your names will be remembered forever. You will be the ones who saved humanity." The pilots listened in silence. Then one of them, a young woman named, raised her hand. "Admiral, what if we fail?" Looked at her for a long moment. Then she answered honestly. "If we fail, then humanity ends. Our children will grow up as slaves if they grow up at all. Our history will be erased. Our culture will be forgotten. Everything we have ever been will disappear." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we will not fail, because failure is not an option, because every person in this fleet would rather die fighting than live on their knees, and because the universe has never seen what humans can do when they are pushed to the edge of extinction." The pilots nodded, their faces hardening with resolve. Lowered her hand, her eyes burning with determination. "Then let us show them, Admiral," she said. "Let us show the entire galaxy." Back on Earth, the world waited in fear. The news channels showed nothing but coverage of the fleet, those 500 ships hovering at the edge of the solar system like a storm about to break. Experts debated what would happen when the 72 hours ended. Some predicted quick surrender. Others predicted total destruction. None of them knew about the Obsidian Armada. None of them knew about the fleet hidden beneath the moon. The secret had been kept perfectly, known only to those who needed to know. General Minyu watched the news from his office in Seoul. He saw the panic in the streets, the people gathering in churches and temples to pray, the families huddled together wondering if they would live to see another week. His phone rang. He answered it immediately. "The fleet is ready," his voice said. "We launch in 2 hours." The enemy. Still waiting, still confident, they have no idea what is coming. Minyu closed his eyes for a moment. 20 years of preparation, 20 years of secrets, all leading to this moment. "Admiral," he said quietly, "do you remember what I told you when you first joined the project? You told me that one day I would have to make a choice that would determine the fate of our species. And now that day has come. Are you ready?" There was a pause on the line. Then his voice returned, steady and sure. "I was born ready, General, and so was every person in this fleet. We will not let humanity down." "Then go," Minyu said. "Go and save us all." The line went dead. Minyu set down his phone and looked out the window at the city below. Millions of lives, all depending on what happened in the next few hours. "Please," he whispered to no one in particular, "let it be enough." In the lunar cavern, the massive doors began to open. Stars appeared in the gap, cold and distant. The void of space waited beyond, empty and infinite. Admiral stood on the bridge of the silent thunder, watching the doors separate. Beside her, Captain gave orders in a calm voice, coordinating the launch sequence across all 300 ships. "All vessels report ready," Lieutenant announced. "Engines online, weapons charged, void skin activated." Took a deep breath. This was it, the moment everything changed. "Begin launch sequence," she ordered. "All ships follow the flagship. Maintain absolute communication silence until we reach attack position." The silent thunder's engines ignited with a sound like distant thunder. The ship began to move, sliding forward through the gap in the cavern doors. Behind it, one by one, the rest of the fleet followed. 312 ships poured out of the moon like shadows escaping from darkness. They spread across space in perfect formation, invisible to any sensor, undetectable by any scanner. To anyone watching, the space around the moon appeared completely empty. But it was not empty. It was full of death waiting to strike. The Obsidian Armada had awakened, and they had no idea what was coming. The fleet hung in space like a wall of iron. 517 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built in public. They stretched across thousands of kilometers, their formation so perfect it seemed mechanical. From a distance, they looked like a single entity, a metal snake coiled and ready to strike. High Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His stone-gray skin reflected the light from the main, where a small blue dot represented the planet Earth. "Status report," he said, his voice carrying no more emotion than a computer reading data. "All vessels in position, Commander," his second answered. "The humans have made no aggressive moves. Their scattered fleet remains at defensive positions around their colonies." As expected, turned away from the screen, walking to his command throne. "They are insects pretending to be warriors. Their ships are primitive. Their weapons are weak. This conquest will require no effort at all." "The deadline expires in 6 hours, Commander." "I am aware. Prepare the invasion force. When the time comes, we will crush Earth's defenses within minutes. By tomorrow, this system will belong to the Empire." Across the void, Admiral listened to the intercepted communications. The Obsidian Armada had been traveling for nearly 20 hours, moving slowly to avoid any chance of detection. They were now positioned behind the fleet, spread across a wide arc of space. "They truly believe we are helpless," Lieutenant said, her voice mixed with disbelief and anger. "They speak of us like we are animals waiting for slaughter." "Good," replied. "Let them believe it. Their arrogance is our greatest weapon." Captain moved to stand beside her, his face lit by the glow of tactical displays. "All ships report ready, Admiral. We are in position. On your command, we can begin the attack." Studied the display showing enemy positions. 500 ships against 300. The numbers were still against them, but numbers were not everything. "Not yet," she said. "We wait for the signal." The signal would come from Earth. General Menu had prepared a final piece of theater, a surrender broadcast that would draw the fleet into closer formation. When they moved to accept humanity's submission, they would bunch together, making them perfect targets. The minutes crawled by. On every ship in the Obsidian Armada, crews waited in tense silence. Pilots sat in their cockpits with fingers hovering over controls. Gunners watched targeting screens, ready to fire the moment the order came. On the silent thunder, a young officer named worked at the sensor station. He was barely 22 years old, fresh from the academy, selected for this mission because of his exceptional skills with detection equipment. "Admiral," he said suddenly, "I am picking up something strange." "Move to a station immediately. Explain." "One of the enemy ships is changing position. It is moving away from the main fleet, heading toward the outer system." "A patrol?" "I do not think so. Its course is unusual. It is moving in a search pattern as if looking for something." Felt a cold sensation in her stomach. "Can you determine what it is searching for?" Worked his controls rapidly. After a moment his face went pale. "It is scanning for gravitational disturbances, micro-fluctuations in local space, the kind that would be caused by a large number of ships traveling in formation." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. "They know," breathed. "Somehow they know we are here." His mind raced. How could they have discovered them? The void skin technology made their ships invisible to all known sensors, unless— "The movement," she said suddenly. "Our engines create gravitational ripples when we accelerate. We have been moving too long. They detected the disturbance." "What do we do?" asked. Made her decision instantly. Waiting was no longer an option. If the patrol ship reported their position, the entire fleet would turn to face them. The element of surprise would be lost. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. "Secure frequency, burst transmission." The communication officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Spoke clearly and calmly, knowing that 300 captains were listening to every word. "All vessels, this is Admiral. Our presence has been partially detected. We must attack now, before the enemy can respond. All ships will engage on my mark. Primary targets are the largest enemy vessels. Disable their command ships and the fleet will fall into confusion." She paused, taking a breath. "This is the moment we have trained for. This is why we exist, for Earth, for humanity, for everyone we love." She straightened her shoulders. "Mark." Across 1,000 kilometers of space, 300 ships suddenly powered their weapons. The void skin that had hidden them shifted frequencies, allowing their targeting systems to lock onto enemy vessels while still absorbing return scans. The Silent Thunder fired first. 24 plasma lances erupted from its hull, beams of superheated matter screaming across the void at near light speed. They struck the nearest battleship before anyone on that vessel could even register the attack. The enemy ship exploded. Then everything became chaos. The Obsidian Armada appeared in the midst of the fleet like ghosts materializing from darkness. Ships that had been invisible seconds before now revealed themselves, weapons blazing, engines flaring. On the Eternal Dominion, High Commander watched his display with something that might have been shock. Red icons were disappearing across his tactical screen. Ships that had been fully operational moments ago were now debris. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Where did these vessels come from?" "Unknown, Commander. We are under attack from all directions. Our sensors cannot maintain lock on the enemy ships." Gripped his command throne. In 200 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The human ships appeared and disappeared like shadows, striking and vanishing before his gunners could respond. "All ships, defensive formation," he ordered. "Concentrate fire on any vessel you can detect." But it was too late for formations. The Obsidian Armada had split into smaller groups, each one attacking from a different angle. Every time a ship tried to target an enemy, that enemy disappeared, replaced by another attack from a completely different direction. Lieutenant watched her displays with grim satisfaction. Enemy fleet is in disarray. They are firing at empty space, trying to hit ships that are no longer there. "Maintain pressure," ordered. "Do not let them regroup." The Silent Thunder carved through the battle like a blade. Its plasma lances fired continuously, each beam finding a target. Void torpedoes launched from its tubes, detonating against enemy hulls and tearing them apart. Captain coordinated the attacks from his position on the bridge. Squadron 3, Attack Vector 7. Squadron 5, Support from the flank. All ships maintain void skin integrity between strikes. They fought back with increasing desperation. Their weapons were powerful, capable of destroying human ships with a single hit, but they could not hit what they could not see. One cruiser managed to track an Obsidian vessel long enough to fire. The human ship took a direct hit, its shields flickering. Before the enemy could fire again, 3 other Obsidian ships appeared beside it, plasma lances converging on the cruiser simultaneously. The ship did not survive. "We have lost 12 ships," reported. "Enemy losses are approaching 100. Nodded grimly. 12 ships, 12 crews, hundreds of people. But the exchange rate was heavily in their favor, if they could maintain this pace. "Commander is attempting to withdraw," announced. "His flagship is moving toward the outer system." "No," his voice was hard as steel. "He does not get to run. All squadrons converge on the Eternal Dominion. That ship does not leave this battlefield." The Obsidian Armada responded as one. Like a flock of deadly birds, They abandoned their scattered attacks and surged toward the enemy flagship. Watched them coming. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. All power to shields, he ordered. Protect this ship at all costs. But there were not enough ships left to form an effective screen. Too many had been destroyed or disabled. The survivors were scattered and confused, unable to coordinate their defense. The Silent Thunder led the attack, stood at the front of her bridge, watching the Eternal Dominion grow larger on the enemy flagship was enormous, 3 times the size of her own vessel. Its weapons were already firing desperate streams of energy trying to find a target. All ships attack Pattern Omega, ordered. Hit them from every direction at once. The Obsidian fleet spread around the Eternal Dominion like a closing fist. From every angle, plasma lances fired. Void torpedoes launched. The combined firepower of nearly 300 ships concentrated on a single target. The Eternal Dominion's shields held for exactly 4 seconds. Then they collapsed. The first plasma beam to penetrate struck the ship's main reactor. The second hit its ammunition stores. The third, fourth, and fifth were unnecessary. High Commander had time for one final thought before the explosion consumed him. How, he wondered. How did they become so strong? Then there was only light, and then nothing at all. On the Silent Thunder, cheers erupted across the bridge. Officers embraced each other. Someone was crying. The enemy flagship, the symbol of power, was gone. But did not celebrate. She was already looking at her displays, counting the remaining enemy ships. Nearly 200 had been destroyed. Over 100 more were damaged beyond combat capability, but that still left almost 200 functional vessels. "The battle is not over," she said, her voice cutting through the celebrations. "There are still enemy ships out there. We finish this. Every last one." The crew returned to their stations, the moment of joy replaced by renewed determination. The Obsidian Armada turned toward the remaining ships. Many of them were already trying to flee, jumping to faster-than-light speed, abandoning the battle. But many others held their ground, either brave or foolish enough to continue fighting. The next 2 hours were brutal. The now fighting for survival instead of conquest showed the fierce determination of cornered animals. They managed to destroy another 40 Obsidian ships before the end. But the end came nonetheless. When the last weapon fell silent, when the last enemy ship either surrendered or died, Admiral finally allowed herself to breathe. They had won. Against all odds, against an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds, humanity had won. "Damage report," she said quietly. "We have lost 73 ships," answered, his voice heavy. "Over 4,000 crew members dead, another 2,000 wounded across the fleet." 4,000 dead. Closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of those losses. Families who would never see their loved ones again. Children who would grow up without parents. The cost of victory. But it was a victory, and without it, there would have been no families left at all. "Open a channel to Earth," ordered. "It is time to let them know." The channel opened. General Menu's face appeared on screen, aged by worry, hope, and fear mixing in his eyes. "Admiral," he said, "report." Straightened her shoulders. Despite her exhaustion, despite the losses, her voice was strong. "The fleet is destroyed, Earth is safe." And somewhere on that small blue planet, billions of people began to cheer. The news spread across Earth like fire. At first, no one believed it. The fleet, that unstoppable armada that had filled the sky with terror, was gone. Destroyed by a fleet no one knew existed. A fleet of shadows, a fleet of ghosts, an armada born from darkness and human determination. In Seoul, crowds poured into the streets. In Beijing, fireworks exploded above the city. In New York, strangers embraced each other, crying and laughing at the same time. Across the planet, humanity celebrated its survival. But for the crews of the Obsidian Armada, there was no celebration. Not yet. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Silent Thunder, watching recovery teams move through the debris field. Among the twisted metal and floating wreckage, they searched for survivors, escape pods, emergency beacons, any sign of life. "Another pod located," Lieutenant reported. "It appears to be from the Crimson Shadow, 3 life signs aboard." "Bring them in," ordered. "Continue the search pattern." She had been awake for over 40 hours. Her eyes burned with exhaustion. Her body ached, but she would not rest until every possible survivor was found. Captain moved to stand beside her. His face showed the same weariness she felt, the same weight of command. "Admiral, you should rest. The recovery can continue without you." "I will rest when this is over." "It is over, we won." Shook her head slowly. "It is not over until I know the final count. Every person we lost deserves to be remembered. Every name, every face. I need to know." Did not argue, he understood. In war, victory was never clean. It came with costs that could never be forgotten. The hours passed. The search continued. One by one, survivors were pulled from the void and brought aboard the remaining ships. Each rescue felt like a small miracle, a life snatched back from death. But for every survivor, there were too many who did not make it. In the medical bay of the Silent Thunder, doctors worked without rest. The wounded filled every bed, every spare space. Some would recover. Others would carry scars for the rest of their lives. And some, despite the doctor's best efforts, slipped away into the silence. Visited the medical bay when she could. She spoke with the wounded, thanked them for their service, held hands with those who needed comfort. It was the hardest part of her duty, but she would not avoid it. One young pilot lay in a corner bed with burns covering half her body. Her ship had taken a direct hit during the final assault, and she had barely managed to eject before it exploded. She would live, the doctors said, but the recovery would be long. "Admiral," whispered when sat beside her, "did we win?" "We won," confirmed. "Because of you, because of everyone who fought." "My crew." Was silent for a moment, then she shook her head. Eyes closed, tears running down her burned cheeks. "They were my family," she said. "I know," took her hand gently. "They died protecting everything we love. Their names will never be forgotten." On Earth, General Menu was handling a different kind of chaos. The world wanted answers. How had humanity built a secret fleet? Who authorized it? Why had no one known? The questions came from everywhere. Governments demanded explanations. Media demanded statements. Citizens demanded transparency. Menu stood before the World Council, facing leaders from every nation. The chamber was vast and filled with angry, confused, frightened faces. "You kept this secret for 20 years, the American representative said. 20 years of building a fleet without authorization, without oversight." "There was oversight," Menu replied calmly. "A small council, 12 members from different nations, monitored every aspect of the project. The secrecy was necessary." "Necessary? You are saying you did not trust your own governments." "I am saying that secrets, once shared too widely, stop being secrets. If they had known about the Obsidian Armada, they would have prepared for it. They would have brought more ships, more weapons. The element of surprise was our greatest advantage." "And if you had failed," the Russian representative asked, "if your secret fleet had been destroyed, we would have had nothing." "If we had failed, nothing else would have mattered anyway." The chamber fell silent. Menu let the words hang in the air before continuing. "I understand your anger. I understand your frustration. You feel that you should have been consulted, that decisions of this magnitude should not have been made without your knowledge, and perhaps you are right." He paused, looking around the room. "But ask yourselves this. If you had known about the fleet, would you have kept the secret? Would every government, every agency, every official have remained silent? Or would the information have leaked, as information always does? No one answered. They knew the truth as well as he did. The Obsidian Project existed because humanity needed it to exist. The crews who died fighting gave their lives to protect a world that did not even know they existed. They deserve our gratitude, not our anger. The Chinese representative leaned forward. What happens now? The Empire still exists. They will send more ships. They will, Minyu agreed. And we will be ready. The Obsidian Armada is damaged, but it can be rebuilt. More importantly, we can now build openly. The secret is out. The time for hiding is over. You are proposing we expand the fleet. I am proposing we show the universe that Earth is not a target. It is a fortress. And any empire foolish enough to attack us will learn the same lesson they learned today. In space, the recovery operations finally concluded. The final count arrived on his desk like a weight settling onto her shoulders. 4,317 dead. Another 2,000 wounded. 73 ships destroyed. Another 40 damaged beyond repair. Against these losses stood the enemy's casualties. Over 500 ships destroyed or captured. An estimated 200,000 enemy soldiers dead. An invasion fleet that had conquered hundreds of worlds, annihilated in a single battle. The numbers favored humanity, but numbers could not measure the grief of families who would never see their loved ones again. Ordered a memorial service to be held in the debris field. Every ship in the fleet that could still move gathered in formation. Crews stood at attention in silence as the names of the fallen were read aloud. It took 3 hours to read every name. When it was over, Captain found standing alone at a viewport, staring out at the stars. "Admiral," he said quietly, "the fleet is ready to return to the moon. We should begin repairs." In a moment, did not turn from the window, "I am remembering." Remembering what? All of them, every person who died. I want to hold their memories just for a moment before we move on. Stood beside her in silence. Together they watched the stars, those cold, distant lights that humans had dreamed of reaching for thousands of years. "Do you think they will come back?" asked eventually. Yes, this was only one fleet. Their empire spans hundreds of systems. They will not accept defeat easily. "Then we will fight them again." Yes, finally turned to face him. Her eyes were red from exhaustion and unshed tears, but her voice was steady. "But this time we will not fight alone. The colonies stood with us today. Mars, Titan, the Belt. When the next battle comes, we will face it together." A united humanity. A united humanity. Something we have talked about for centuries but never achieved. Perhaps it took an enemy from the stars to finally bring us together. The fleet began its journey back to the moon. The damaged ships moved slowly, supported by their undamaged companions. Behind them, the debris field continued to drift, a silent memorial to those who had fallen. On Earth, the celebrations gradually gave way to reflection. People who had cheered in the streets now gathered in quieter places, thinking about what had happened and what it meant. In Seoul, a small ceremony was held outside the military headquarters. Thousands of people attended, holding candles against the night. They were there to honor the soldiers who had saved them, most of whom they would never meet. A young boy stood at the front of the crowd, holding a candle like everyone else. His name was, and he was 8 years old. His father had served on one of the Obsidian ships. His father had not come home. A woman next to him noticed his tears and knelt down beside him. "Your father was a hero," she said gently. Nodded, wiping his eyes. "I know, my mother told me. She said he died so we could live." "That is true, he was very brave." "I want to be brave like him," said. "When I grow up, I want to fly ships and protect people, just like he did." The woman smiled sadly. "Then you will make him very proud." Across the planet, similar scenes played out. Children learning of their parents' sacrifice. families mourning their losses while celebrating their survival, a world forever changed by a battle fought in the darkness between stars. Admiral arrived at the lunar base as the Earth rose above the horizon. The pale blue sphere hung in the black sky, beautiful and fragile, the home of 8 billion people, the home she had sworn to protect. Admiral, a communications officer, reported as she stepped off the shuttle. "You have a message from Earth, from a civilian named. She says her husband served under your command." Took the message tablet. The words on the screen were simple. "Admiral, my husband died in the battle. His commanding officer told me that he died protecting staying at his station when he could have escaped. I wanted you to know that I am proud of him. I am proud of all of them. Thank you for bringing him home as a hero." Held the tablet for a long moment. Then she pressed the reply button and spoke quietly. "Mrs., your husband was one of the bravest people I have ever known. He did not just die for he died for all of us, for Earth, for humanity. His name will be carved in stone, remembered forever, and his sacrifice will never be forgotten." She ended the message and handed the tablet back to the officer. "Make sure that reply reaches her," said, "and find me every other message from families of the fallen. I will respond to each one personally." "All of them, Admiral, there are thousands." "All of them, they deserve that much." She walked into the lunar base, passing crews who saluted as she went. They looked at her with respect, with admiration, with something that might have been awe. To them, she was the hero who had led humanity to victory. But did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. She felt sad. She felt the weight of 4,000 souls who would never go home. Still, she kept walking. There was work to do, ships to repair, defenses to build, a future to prepare for. They would return, that was certain, but when they did, they would find humanity ready. And humanity would never bow. 6 months passed like a long breath after battle. The Obsidian Armada was rebuilt, stronger than before. Shipyards worked day and night, turning out new vessels to replace the ones lost in combat. The 73 destroyed ships became 150 new ones, each incorporating lessons learned from the battle. No longer hidden, the fleet trained openly. Pilots flew exercises in full view of Earth satellites. Engineers tested new weapons systems without secrecy. The universe could watch if it wanted to. Humanity had nothing left to hide. Admiral stood on the bridge of the newly rebuilt Silent Thunder, watching her fleet move through formation exercises. The ships danced through space like shadows, appearing and disappearing, striking practice targets with perfect precision. "Impressive," Captain said, standing beside her. "They have improved significantly since the battle." "They had to," replied. "We won the first fight, but the next one will be harder." She did not speak of what everyone knew. The Empire was vast, spanning hundreds of star systems. The fleet they had destroyed was just one of many. Somewhere out there, the Empire was gathering its strength, preparing to avenge its defeat. The question was not if they would return, but when. The answer came on a Tuesday morning, exactly 6 months after the first battle. Lieutenant was the first to detect the signal. "Admiral," she said, her voice tight, "long-range sensors are picking up something at the edge of the system. Move to the sensor station immediately. Show me." The display came alive with data, felt her blood run cold. Ships, thousands of them, not 500 this time, not 1,000. The sensor counted over 3,000 vessels, stretched across a front so wide it seemed to touch the stars themselves. "The entire war fleet," whispered. "They brought everything." Stared at the display for a long moment, then she straightened her shoulders. "Open a channel to Earth, Priority 1. Within minutes, General Menu's face appeared on screen. His expression showed that he already knew. "We see them," he said. 3,000 ships. Is it really the entire fleet?" "Our intelligence suggests yes," answered. The Emperor himself may be with them. They are not coming to conquer this time. They are coming to destroy. What do you recommend? Had been thinking about this moment for 6 months. She had run simulations, studied tactics, consulted with every strategic mind humanity possessed, and she had reached a conclusion that frightened even her. We cannot win this fight alone, she said. The Obsidian Armada is 400 ships now. Even with our technology, we cannot defeat 3,000. Then what do you suggest? Took a deep breath. We need allies. The message went out across the galaxy. Not in secret this time, but openly, broadcast on every frequency that could reach beyond the solar system. This is Admiral of Earth's Defense Force. We call upon any civilization that has suffered under rule, any world that has been conquered, enslaved, or destroyed by the Empire. We ask you to stand with us now. We ask you to fight. The response came faster than anyone expected. Within hours, ships began arriving at the edge of the solar system. Not many at first, just a handful of vessels from a race called the whose had been captured by the decades ago. Their fleet was small, only 12 ships, but they came without hesitation. We have waited long for someone to resist, the commander said when contacted him. We are honored to fight beside you. Then came a species of brilliant engineers whose technology had been stolen by the Empire. They brought 30 ships and the promise of more. Then the one by one, races that had suffered under rule answered humanity's call. Some brought fleets, some brought single vessels, some brought nothing but their bodies, willing to serve on human ships as crew. By the time the fleet reached the inner system, humanity was no longer alone. Over 800 allied ships had gathered, joining the 400 of the Obsidian Armada. 1,200 ships against 3,000, still outnumbered but no longer hopeless. The Emperor watched the gathering fleet with eyes that had seen 1,000 conquests. He was ancient, even by standards, his stone skin cracked with age and covered with the marks of battles won. So, he said slowly, the vermin have found friends. Shall we crush them all, Emperor? His admiral asked. Yes, but first I wish to speak with them. Open a channel. Admiral received the communication request on the bridge of the Silent Thunder. Around her, every officer tensed. This was the being who had ordered the destruction of hundreds of worlds, the architect of genocide on a scale humanity could barely imagine. Accept the channel, ordered. The face of Emperor appeared on screen. His black eyes were deeper than any she had seen before, holding centuries of cruelty within them. Human, he said, I am told you are the one who destroyed my fleet. I am. Impressive. No race has ever dealt such a blow to the Empire. You should be proud. I am not proud of killing, replied evenly. I am only proud of protecting my people. Made a sound that might have been laughter. Your people, such a small word for such a small species. Do you know how many worlds I have conquered? How many species I have brought to heel? You are nothing compared to them. And yet you are here with 3,000 ships, said. If we are nothing, why bring so many? The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Because you have proven to be dangerous nothing, a pest that must be exterminated completely. When this battle ends, there will be no humans left. No colonies, no stations, no trace that your species ever existed. You may try. I will succeed, leaned forward. But I offer you one chance. Surrender now and I will make your deaths quick. Your planet will be destroyed, but your people will not suffer. Resist, and I will personally ensure that every human dies in agony. Was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. It was a cold smile, the smile of someone who had already accepted the possibility of death. Emperor, she said, I have a message for you, not just from humanity but from every world you have ever conquered, every species you have enslaved, every civilization you have destroyed. She stood, her voice rising. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We do not bow to tyrants who think they can exterminate us with threats and armies. You came here expecting to find a weak species ready to die. Instead, you found a species that would rather die fighting than live in chains." She gestured to her tactical display, showing the Allied fleet. "Look at what you have created, Emperor. 1,000 years of conquest, 1,000 years of cruelty, and now the survivors have united against you. You wanted an empire built on fear. Instead, you built a coalition of everyone who refuses to be afraid anymore." Stared at her, something flickering in those ancient black eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or the first hint of doubt. "You will die," he said finally. "Perhaps," agreed, "but so will you, and that is a price we are willing to pay." She ended the transmission. The battle began. It was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. 1,200 ships against 3,000, fighting across millions of kilometers of space. The Obsidian Armada led the attack, their shadow vessels appearing and disappearing among the enemy like ghosts. The Allied fleets followed, each bringing their own strengths. The ships were fast and agile, drawing enemy fire while others struck from behind. The vessels deployed electronic warfare systems that confused sensors. They fought with desperate fury, seeking vengeance for their enslaved. Commanded from the center of the battle, coordinating movements across all Allied forces. Her voice remained steady even as ships died around her, even as the numbers on her display climbed higher and higher. 1,000 enemy ships destroyed, then 1,500, then 2,000. But humanity and its allies suffered too. The flagship fell under concentrated fire. 3 cruisers exploded trying to break through enemy lines. Human ships died by the dozens, their crews giving everything they had. The Silent Thunder took hit after hit, its shields failing, its hull cracking. Captain reported damage from every section, but did not waver. "Press the attack," she ordered. "Everything we have. Do not stop until it is over." In the chaos of battle, a small group of Obsidian ships broke through to the enemy flagship. The Eternal Vengeance, carrying Emperor himself, suddenly found itself surrounded by shadows. The Emperor watched his death approaching. For the first time in centuries, he felt something he had forgotten existed. "Fear. All weapons target those ships," he commanded. But the Obsidian vessels were too fast, too elusive. They struck from every angle, their plasma lances cutting through his shields like they were made of paper. In his final moment, understood what he had never understood before. These humans, these insignificant creatures from an insignificant world, were not weak. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to show the universe what they truly were. The Eternal Vengeance exploded. And with it died the Empire. The surviving enemy ships broke and ran. Without their emperor, without their command structure, they fled in every direction. Some surrendered. Some jumped to faster-than-light speed, seeking to escape. Some fought to the death. When the last weapon fell silent, when the last enemy ship either fled or died, Admiral finally allowed herself to sit down. Around her, the bridge crew was quiet, exhausted, overwhelmed by what they had accomplished. "Damage report," said softly. "We lost 207 ships," Lieutenant answered, her voice hoarse. "The Allies lost another 300, but the enemy—" She paused, checking her display twice to make sure. "The enemy lost over 2,000 ships, including their emperor. The empire is finished." Closed her eyes, so many dead, so much sacrifice, but they had done it. Against impossible odds they had won. A message arrived from Earth. General Menu's face appeared on screen, tears streaming down his weathered cheeks. "Admiral," he said, "you did it, you saved us all." "Not just us," replied. "Everyone the Empire ever hurt, today they are all free." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy transformed. Worlds that had been enslaved for centuries declared their independence. Species that had been conquered rebuilt their civilizations. A new era began, an era of freedom and cooperation. And at the center of it all was Earth, the small blue planet that had refused to bow, the world that had built an armada from shadows and used it to change history. A monument was constructed on the moon, near the cavern that had once hidden the Obsidian fleet. It listed every name of every person who had died in both battles, 4,000 from the first, 20,000 from the second, heroes all. Admiral attended the dedication ceremony. She stood before the monument, reading the names carved in stone, remembering the faces behind each one. "They wanted us to kneel," she said quietly, speaking to no one and everyone at once. "They demanded that Earth bow down." She placed her hand on the cold stone surface. And humanity replied with the Obsidian Armada. Above her, the stars shone cold and bright, and somewhere among them, the survivors of the Empire remembered the lesson they had learned. Never again would anyone demand that Earth bow down, because Earth would never kneel.